What's up guys, it's Serge, and welcome back to my series of music theory lessons. Last week I discussed the 12 notes in Western music, and today I'm going to discuss what scales are and how we use them. I also got this new pop filter so you don't have to hear my annoying plosives when I talk into the mic.
What is a scale? According to Wikipedia, a scale is any set of musical notes ordered by fundamental frequency or pitch. Okay, before I start explaining this, let's hear what a scale sounds like. This scale is called the C major scale. The note we start on, C, is called our fundamental note. Think of the fundamental note as the home base of our scale. The scale starts and ends on our fundamental note. We have 7 notes in this scale: C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, and it ends on the octave C. By the way, you might find interesting that this scale uses all of the white keys or natural notes on the piano. Okay, so this explains why we call it C major, but what does major mean? Major describes the certain quality of the scale. Here's the easiest way to think about this. Major sounds happy, and minor sounds sad. It helps to associate certain emotions with different scales to help you internalize them. So if I play C major, think happy or light scale. If I play C minor, think sad scale or dark. What are the different formulas for these scales? How are they constructed? Well, if you remember from my last lesson, a half step is the closest interval / distance between 2 different notes, and a whole step equals 2 half steps. If we look at the formula of the major scale, we have 7 scale degrees, with the 8th note being the octave above the first note, or fundamental. Between notes 1 and 2, we have a whole step, then a whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, then a whole step, then a whole step, and finally with a half step. Let's play each one. By the way, you don't have to get too stressed out and memorize all these formulas all at once. It's good to get the feel of one first before moving to the next, or spend just a little time on each one per day. Let's look at the minor scale, otherwise known as natural minor. We have again 7 scale degrees. Starting on this first note, we have a whole step, then a half step, whole step, half step, and ending on a whole step. Here's what it sounds like. Let's look at another scale called the harmonic minor scale. This scale has the same notes as the natural minor scale, but the 7th note is raised to half step. Here's the formula for the harmonic minor scale: whole step, half step, whole step, half step, 1.5 whole steps or 3 half steps, and finally a half step. Here's what it sounds like. We also have the melodic minor scale. The formula is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Here's what it sounds like. We also have a scale called the pentatonic scale. The prefix of the word penta means we have 5 notes in this scale only. If we look back at our C major scale, we pick 5 of these notes to make our C major pentatonic scale. We pick scale degrees 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. So on our C major pentatonic scale, we would pick C, D, E, G, and A. Here's what it sounds like. We also have the minor pentatonic scale. If we look back at our C minor scale, we have again 5 notes to pick from to make C minor pentatonic. We would pick scale degrees 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7 from the minor scale. So we would pick C, E flat, F, G, and B flat. Here's what it sounds like. The pentatonic scale is used a lot in blues and rock music for improvising and writing. Side note, why did I say use scale degrees flat 3 or flat 7 in the minor scale? When we talk about scale degrees, we usually use our major scale as the baseline. This means in the major scale, for example, the first 3 scale degrees are 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 are the same, but the 3rd degree is lowered a half step from the major scale, so we call this flat 3. If we look at the natural minor scale, for example, we have scale degrees 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, and flat 7, because all of those flatted notes are 1 half step down from the major scale notes. We also have the chromatic scale, which uses all 12 notes in our musical alphabet. When we play the chromatic scale from beginning to end, we move up in half steps and can do this descending. Here's what it sounds like. Of course, when we utilize all these scales, we want to make them more musical than just playing them up and down in their order. I want to bring up another interesting point. Here's the C major scale again. Now, here's a scale called A natural minor, or just A minor. Did you notice how both scales used only the white keys, aka the natural notes? Are they the same scale? Well, not exactly, but what does this mean? When different major and minor scales use the same notes but start on different notes, these scales are relative to each other. So what do I mean by this? So if A minor has the same notes as C major, that means that A minor is the relative minor scale to C major. Conversely, C major is the relative major scale to A minor. When scales start on the same note, but the other notes are different, these are called parallel. So for example, C major is the parallel major to C minor, and C minor is the parallel minor to C major. This is because they have the same fundamental note, some notes are different. There are other scales to learn, but let's step back for a second. What's the point of scales? What are they for? How do we use them? Scales are primarily used in writing music and improvising. Let's talk about improvising first. If I play the A minor scale over this A minor chord, it wouldn't sound too bad. But it would be more interesting if I played around with the notes and made cool melodies with them over the chord, like this. I'm using the same notes but making it sound more musical than just playing the scale up and down. I'll talk more about how we use scales in writing in a later video, but essentially the scales give us a foundation. In other words, they tell us what notes we should mainly be using in our songs / pieces of music. I'll discuss this in more depth when we talk about functions of notes in a later video. These formulas work on all scales, not just ones beginning on C. That concludes our lesson for today. Next lesson I'll discuss what intervals are and how we use them in music. If you like what you saw, subscribe. If not.